Welcome back to the Kia Sportage, but this time with a few midlife tweaks. Now before I do anything else, if you enjoy what we do, if you enjoy watching these videos, then make sure you subscribe. It really does make a difference. Subscribe, click for notifications, and then if you want, like this video, comment and share it with other people. Oh, and also don't forget to visit newmotoring.com. That's fairly important as well. This is the new refreshed Kia Sportage, and I have to say it looks remarkably similar to the old Kia Sportage. But Kia has made some changes. The front and rear bumpers are different, for example, and the lights are different as well. There are just lots and lots of little tweaks. And it kind of makes sense, really. I really like the look of the Sportage, and a lot of other people do as well, so why would you change it too much? It's under the skin where Kia have made the more significant changes. Engines, you can have a 1.6 litre naturally aspirated petrol engine with 130 brake horsepower, or you can have a 1.6 litre petrol with a turbocharger, in which case power goes up to 174 brake horsepower. Alternatively, if diesel is your poison, you can have a 1.6 litre turbo diesel with 114 brake horsepower or 134 brake horsepower. And that 1.6 replaces the old 1.7 litre diesel that was around pre-facelift. That was the car that I drove to Scotland just over a year ago. There is, however, a third way. You can go for a 2 litre diesel with a mild hybrid system. And what that does is, when you accelerate, it gives you a boost, reducing the stress on the engine. And then when you lift off or brake, it recharges a battery. Now I don't know about you, but the idea of a diesel hybrid sounds actually quite intriguing, especially as diesel has had such a beating over the last couple of years. This car I'm in at the moment has a naturally aspirated 1.6 litre petrol. So it's got 130 brake horsepower, 196 pounds-feet of torque, and it will get around 39 miles to the gallon. 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 11.2 seconds, and the top speed is 113 miles an hour. 60. There we go. Essentially, it's not quick, and that's because it doesn't have a lot of torque, really. You've got to wait until about 4,000 RPM before the engine starts to wake up. I think my issue with this engine is just the fact that it feels a little bit lethargic. If you put your foot on the clutch and rev the engine a little bit, it takes too long for the revs to drop back down again. It just feels a little bit lazy. On the plus side, or rather the entertaining side, if you stand outside on the side of the road and this car drives past, you can hear a gentle whistle. It sounds like a very distant flute solo. You're given the choice between a 6-speed manual gearbox or a 7-speed double clutch, unless you go for the 2 litre diesel with the mild hybrid, in which case you have to have an 8-speed automatic. And if you go for the more powerful petrol or the more powerful diesel, you can also have this car with all-wheel drive. This has a 6-speed manual, and because it's the lower powered petrol engine, it's also front-wheel drive. The gearbox is quite light, but actually it's quite nice to use. The only thing I've found is that the clutch is quite light, but also lacking in feel, really, so I struggle to feel when it's going to bite. The steering is actually pretty good. You don't get that electric kind of dead spot just off centre that you get in some cars, where small movements of the wheel just feel really unnatural and just a bit crap. But what you do get, I found, is that sometimes the steering weight isn't as heavy as you might expect it to be. So if you turn into a corner and you expect there to be a certain amount of weight, you don't get that. Sometimes it's just a little bit too light. Doesn't necessarily tell me or communicate exactly what the tyres are doing. It feels like I'm in a lighter, smaller car than I really am. I feel like a little bit more weight once I've got a bit more steering lock on would just reassure me a little bit. And the suspension, it's comfortable but also controlled. Sometimes comfort just means wobbly and spongy and vague and not very good. But this is comfortable and controlled. If you go over a bump, it soaks it up and deals with it there and then. You're not left flopping around for a few minutes afterwards. And yes, there's a little bit of roll, but not as much as I probably would have thought. I think what strikes me though is how well equipped it is. I know that sounds like quite a boring, mundane kind of thing to say, but it is very well equipped. It's got navigation, it's got DAB radio, it's got Bluetooth, it's got heated seats, you've got a reversing camera. And I didn't expect it to have that because it's the second trim level. It's not the BOGO standard one, it's not the most basic one, it's the level 2, but still, I didn't think it would have as much as it does. This car I'm driving at the moment is £22,000, just over, which just seems like remarkably good value. I think the only thing that I'd want that this doesn't have is a bit more torque, so I would probably go for the turbocharged engine rather than the naturally aspirated engine. I just like a little bit more grunt. Yes, I'd like the steering to have a little bit more weight to it sometimes, and I'd like it to communicate slightly more as well, but it doesn't ruin the experience. Every time I drive one of these, I come away understanding why so many people like them. It's just a good car. And now, I just want to try that diesel hybrid. I am intrigued.